Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Back in the mid-2000s, this was a special edition for the United States market. It is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter chronograph US Special Edition. Now, the timepiece, which was built for the U.S. market, this example was retailed in 2005, it includes some special elements here, such as applique indices, applique Omega logo, applique Omega marquee, 1,000-foot depth rating, no meters, because this one is in imperial units for us in the old colonies. A special brushed bezel insert and a lovely combination of a vertical satin finished silver dial with a few well-chosen red accents. So let's talk about the basics. 41.5 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. This Seamaster Diver 300-meter chrono is 15.2 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 49.1 millimeters. It is 52.7 millimeters from end link to end link, and the spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters. Now, I own the standard version of the so-called Bond Seamaster of this generation and style. Mine is a lot thinner, and mine is a little bit smaller because it's the chronometer. This is a chronometer, but it's also a chronograph, which means it wears a little bit larger. On the bracelet, it expands broader across the wrist, so I would recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger, because it really is a beefy watch. Again, my wrist is 16 centimeters circumference. You can see it from over the top. Now, the bracelet's also a little bit beefier than the multi-link design on the conventional Bond Seamasters, and by Bond I mean Pierce Brosnan. He was the one who made this model line famous. Daniel Craig was all about the planet Ocean. But we have this 3-link design with ovoid cross sections. Everything's in satin, which gives it a more rugged look than the conventional Diver 300-meter, which includes polished intermediate links. We have a thick gauge single fold deploy and clasp here. You can see the engraving is still quite deep externally. It's a twin trigger release. The swing arm, as with the clasp body, very thick gauge steel. We have a flip out dive extension here that still has wonderfully tight, snappy tolerance to it, so it hasn't been worn down by use. Removable links are fixed by pins and sleeves, so you'll need a block and a punch to size this bracelet, but it is a very secure system, these pin sleeves, once they are set up. We have an integration of bracelet to case via a conforming end link, and then we have a case that will be familiar to Omega fans. Since the early 1960s, these lyre-style lug cases have been characteristic of the Seamasters and Speedmasters. By lyre-style lug, I mean there's an inward bevel, but there's also an outward bevel. The outward bevel is polished, and you can see it shrinks but doesn't entirely disappear across the mid case, and then the case band is longitudinally satinated. We have a little helium escape valve here. You open that before a saturation dive, and when any helium that may intrude into the watch needs to exit during the ascent, the valve, once opened externally, will open internally when internal pressure exceeds external pressure by 2 to 3 bar. The watch includes shoulders for the chronograph pushers to brace them, but they are not screw downs. You can operate the chronograph at any time without screwing the shoulders of the pushers in and out. The crown does screw in and out. The watch is 1,000 feet, water resistant. And we may as well talk a little bit about this whole U.S. market business. It is a special edition watch. It is not a limited edition watch. But you can see it says U.S. Special Edition. 1,000 feet is recapped on the reverse side as it's present on the dial. And there is speculation that fewer than 1,000 of these were brought into the U.S. market, but I have never seen any hard data or statement from Omega itself to confirm that. What is undeniable is that in the mid-2000s, this was a U.S. market special edition. It has the basic Diver 300-meter chronograph's 120 click bezel, which has a wonderfully chunky sound to it. You can see this one features a special bezel insert rather than the conventional anodized aluminum and black or blue. Here we have a lovely bare metal satination with dark indices and numerals. We also have a dial that features all applique indices and the Omega logo and marquee with broadsword style hands. This dial design first surfaced in 1998 on the Diver 300-meter GMT, and it is a more luminescent and legible evolution of the so-called Bond dial of the 90s. Lacking the small round indices or the skeleton hands, this just has has more platform for lume, and we'll see that now as the watch is quite well loomed. You can see even the chronograph seconds hand is loomed, and it's easy to line up the bezel pearl with the broadsword style minutes hand. Now, if you take a quick look here, you can see that there is a vertical satination, almost like stainless steel, to the silver dial. We have a polished chaptering for each one of the sub-registers, each of which is slightly sunken, and then each of which contains a concentric pattern internally. Sub-register hands are varnished red, so is the tip of the chronograph seconds hand. You can time two events concurrently, one with the dive bezel, which is a 0 to 60 minute count-up timer, and one with the chronograph, which includes a 30-minute format and a 12-hour format. Now, this watch features a movement not present on the standard diver 300-meter chrono. It's based on the Frédéric Piguet 1285, which is essentially a Blancpain movement. So Blancpain made the 1185 for its own watches through its movement specialist, Frédéric Piguet. Frédéric Piguet built a beefier version of the 1185 called the 1285 that Omega used, and it incorporates a lot of the basic elements you'd get on the 1185, but with some upgrades to durability, hacking seconds, and power reserve. So let's talk about this movement. Underneath the case back, which features both waves and a seahorse, we have that Omega caliber 3303. So now let's talk about the basic specs. It has hacking seconds, something that the 1185 Frédéric Piguet does not have. It also has a quick set date in spite of the conventional symmetrical dial, which is something the Valjoux 7753 does not have. That does not have a quick set date. Now we also have a beat rate of 4 hertz, not the 1185's 3 hertz. And we have here a vertical clutch column wheel chronograph rather than the cam and lateral clutch of the more common Valjoux 7750. So you get the smoothness of the vertical clutch, the engagement without any stagger or jump. You also get the ability to run the chronograph full time if you wish, because there's no additional play in a vertical clutch. The column wheel is crisp. You feel it, you hear it. It is tangibly better than the 7750 that's generally used in the diver 300-meter chronographs. This watch also has a 55-hour power reserve, whereas the 1185 has a 40-hour power reserve, and the 7750 usually is described as having a 42 to 46-hour power reserve. So 55 here is solidly more. It is a handsomely decorated and chronometer-certified movement that could be described as haute horlogerie in an Omega. The movement, of course, is COSC certified, but it is not coaxial. This is a very rugged and durable movement that is pre-coaxial. The 3313 version of this movement was not always reliable in the early years, but the pre-coaxial version, this one with a standard Swiss lever movement, is very tough and very accurate. And again, this is the US market special edition, 1,000 feet, no meters. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.